Hello and welcome to this jazz guitar lesson. I'm Whiteman and thanks for joining me. Today we're going to look at part 2 of a series on Wes Montgomery's 4-on-6. We're going to look at the first 2 choruses of Wes's Improv on 4-on-6 from the album The Incredible Jazz Guitar of Wes Montgomery. I'm going to show you what he plays, and then we're going to break it down and do an analysis, which will hopefully offer some insight into the concepts that he's using. The song is about 200 beats per minute on the recording. I'm going to pull up a backing track at 100 beats per minute and play through the first 2 choruses, and then we're going to break it down phrase by phrase, and I'll show you what he's doing. Alright, that was the first 2 choruses of Wes's solo. Now we're going to break it down really slow, go over each phrase, do an analysis, and I'm also going to share with you how I organize the information. And that's really important for retention and to also be sure you are clear on what the underlying harmony is. So the first 4 bars of this tune are G minor 7. He starts his phrase with a pickup, so before the beginning of the chorus on beat 4, and it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. All right, so a very simple opening phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and what he's playing looks like G minor pentatonic to me. G, B flat, C. Right, that's your root, your flat third, and your 11th. And you know, the way that I organize this is that I want to see G minor and I want to see the relationship. So here is G minor 7. You know, you could play G minor 7 like this. But I want to see these notes in relationship to that harmony. Right, so that if I move this minor 7, suppose I move to A minor 7, the relationship stays the same. Right, and now I have a piece of vocabulary for a minor chord, for a minor 7 chord, right? If I go to C minor, right? All right, so that's phrase 1. Very simple. Phrase 2 starts on the second measure on beat 3, and it sounds like this. 1, 2. Cool phrase, more sophisticated in the first phrase. Again, I'm attaching it visually to this minor 7 chord, G minor 7 here. And let's look at what he's playing. So he starts with a G minor triad, G, B flat, D. Then he goes to the 11th to C, right? And he does something really cool. He slides from the flat 9 into to the ninth, right? Sounds like this. And then he finishes the phrase moving back to the minor third to the root, right? And that phrase sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. Now, I'm going to do what we did with the first phrase. Let's move to a different harmony. Let's move up a whole step again to A minor. And if I wanted to use that line over A minor, the pattern is going to be the same. Right? And you can move that up and down the neck. You know, if this is a piece of vocabulary that you want to assimilate, you've got to play it over and over and over and see the relationship to the harmony. So when we transcribe, we can play the transcription verbatim, right? But that doesn't always lead to you assimilating the vocabulary. I found that it's really important to break each phrase down, and if you find a phrase you really like, then you have to move it around. You got to move it to different key centers to really get that intimacy so that you have that available in your playing, right? All right, so those are the first two phrases. Then we move into the next 4 bars, which are the more challenging section of this tune because it's 2 5s moving, rather quickly, right? And so in bar 5, we have C minor 7 to F7, and I'm going to play the C minor 7 here. So this is what I'm seeing kind of as my harmonic map, right? So over the C minor to the F7, what he plays is a phrase that starts on the end of 2. It goes 1, 2, right? And if you see how that lays over that C minor chord, that's going to be helpful. He starts on the flat third. And the C minor is on the first 2 beats of that measure. F7 is on beat 3 and beat 4. And so the E flat is on the end of 2. So that's the only note that's attached to the C minor, right? So 1, 2, and then this is attached to the F7. If you want to see how those notes relate to the harmony as it changes, you have to be aware of that, right? So this is the end of 2 attached to C minor, and then beat 3 and then beat 4, that's over the F7. And so when you do your analysis, you've got to do it against, the harmony as it changes, right? So flat third against the C, and then this is F, so it's my root, to my D, which is my 13, to C, which is the 5th, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, the phrase doesn't stop. It actually moves through the next measure. So I'm going to play the whole phrase there. 1, 2. Now, one phrase moving through 4 different harmonies, right? It went C minor to F7, and then it went B flat minor to E flat 7, right? So we got the first half, and then that second half of the phrase starts on B flat, which is the root of my B flat minor 7. And I'm kind of seeing it here, right? And it goes root down to the 5th, down to the flat 7. And if I see that in relationship to B flat minor 7, it's kind of like B flat minor pentatonic, right? From that position, if you know it. So root, 5th, flat 7th, into the 3rd of E flat 7. So very good voice leading. So it's root to the 5th, and this is actually an enclosure of the 3rd of E flat 7, which is G, right? I went F to A flat, so I went below, above, and then right into my 3rd of E flat 7, and then finished on the root. Now that phrase complete sounds like this. 1, 2. One of the things that's really helpful is to sing the phrases. We don't want this to just be a physical thing. We really want to get the sound in our head, really be clear with the notes. What do they sound like? And you can't sing it unless you have some clarity on that. So it's not easy in the beginning if you haven't done this, but it's really worth exploring. I'm not a very good singer, so I'm going to embarrass myself, but here's an example of how I do it. Da dee da da dee bo be boo be. Right? Again, not a good singer. All right, so let's move on to the next phrase. After the B flat minor to E flat 7, we move A minor to D7. And he does very simple idea. He starts on E, and it's kind of a pull off, double pull off. He moves from E down to E flat to D. That's it. So, coming from the phrase before, 1, 2. That's it. Very simple idea. And then he takes that idea and he moves it up a half step to get into the phrase he uses over the E flat minor to A flat 7, right? And I was playing an E flat minor 9 voicing to A flat 7. And what he does, same idea that he used previously, but he follows it up with a scalar run. So right down the A flat mixolydian mode. So this is bar 8 of the solo, and all of this is on the PDF that's available to my Patreon subscribers. It's got notation and tab on it. But that phrase sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right. So again, he does that double pull off, and then he's coming down the A flat mixolydian mode. Right, so here's the 5th to the 4th to the 3rd to the 9th to the root. And then this is kind of a ghost note. That flat 7, it's barely audible, right? And then he slides into the D because now we've resolved back to G minor 7. So, and that's bar 9 here. It's real simple. Just slide into the 5th, up to the root on the G minor 7. And then in bar 10, he moves up 2 frets and he plays this phrase. And really nice G minor phrase. If you look at it, he's outlining what looks to be a B flat major 7. So this is a great organizational concept. So what does that B flat major 7 give me against a G minor chord? It gives you the 9, the flat 7, the 5th, and the 3rd. All right? And so a great way to organize a real pretty sound, basically a G minor 9. If the bass player is playing G, we get a G minor 9. So his phrase is this: 3, 4, 1. Great phrase. Again, if I see this as my G minor, I'm going up a whole step from where that chord is, starting to play a major 7 arpeggio from the major 7 down. So if this were on an A minor, we would play A minor here, go up a whole step from A, play a major 7 arpeggio. I have a line for A minor. Here's B flat minor, go up a whole step. Right. Again, that's the organizational component, so that I have access to this information and outside of the context of this solo, right? That takes us to bar 11. And then in bar 12, we have the 2-5 C minor to F7. That takes us to B flat major 7. So what he's using there is the B flat major blues scale, and that phrase sounds like this: 1, 2, 3. So very old school, kind of reminds me of a Charlie Christian phrase. And then the phrase following that sounds like this: 1, 2, 3. And that's pretty much just the B flat major scale, with the exception of a little chromaticism at the beginning of that line. And so what happens is a double pull off. He starts on D, which is the third, and pull off again. Then I get to my B flat, and it's just right down the scale to the E flat. Right? And then we have the last phrase of this first chorus, which goes like this. This is bar 14, second half of bar 14. 1, 2, 3. And that phrase is, I'm seeing this G minor triad here. So he starts on the flat third of G, so B flat up to the fifth. He moves into the flat 6, back to the 5th, to the 3rd, to the root. So, really utilizing that triad. So 1, 2, 3. And then he moves down to the 5th, and then to the leading tone of F sharp into G. So you kind of hear that leading tone resolving. 1, 2, 3. So sounds like it's complete at that point. And that happens to be towards the end, almost at the end of the first chorus. It's definitely the last phrase in that chorus. Then there's a pickup into the next chorus. He starts on beat 3 of the next measure. So let's look at that. So we're in bar 16, second half, and he's doing a lead in into the beginning of the next chorus. Sounds like this: 1, 2. Pretty simple. He's moving up again an arpeggio, straight G minor 7 arpeggio. 1, 2. So root, flat 3rd, 5th, flat 7th, back to the root. And here he's playing quarter notes. Ding, 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 ding. And playing quarter notes can be effective if you're trying to really solidify the time feel. If you feel things are a little bit shaky with the band. If you play, quarter notes right in the center there, that can help sometimes make everything gel, right? So it sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he does this slide in bar 18. He goes 2 more G's, slide into the 9th. And then it happens again in bar 19. And then we have a little pentatonic, little G minor pentatonic finish to that phrase. That whole phrase sounds like this: 1, 2. I'm seeing that. I see the G minor arpeggio here. I see my G minor 7 shell voicing, my G minor 9. So that's the orientation that I'm using to see that. If I wanted to move it around, maybe I'll move it down to F minor. Then that phrase would sound like this: 1, 2. A. Right. Again, just building that relationship between the single notes and some harmonic visuals there. All right, so now we are at bar 21, so we're back to the section of the descending 2 5s. We're at C minor 7 to F7. And the phrase he plays here sounds like this. This is bar 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and, right? And that is flat third to the 5th to the flat 7th of C minor. The flat 7th of C minor moves down a half step into the 3rd of F7. So we have that good voice leading, 7th to the 3rd, and then he finishes with the root on F7. Very similar to the phrase that he does in bar 6. What I'm seeing my C minor shape, but I'm also seeing my E flat major shape because of the relationship between E flat major and C minor, relative major and minor. You can look at the first 3 notes he plays as an E flat major arpeggio, or you can look at it as a rootless C minor 7 arpeggio, right? So 1 and 2 and 3 and then the harmony changes to B flat minor 7 to E flat 7. And this is more of a scalular phrase. You can look at this as B flat Dorian. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And that's what he's playing over the B flat minor to E flat 7. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? So we have 9, flat third, 11th, and then the harmony changes to E flat 7, and we get the 9 to the 11th. There's the 3rd. That's that voice leading again into the 3rd. We move down to the F, and then that F slides down a half step to E because the harmony changed to A minor 7. So it just perfectly takes you from B flat minor, E flat 7 to A minor, and then we're going to move into D7, right? That phrase sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3. And I'm going to stop there. The phrase isn't done. This is a long phrase. But in bar 23, I'm seeing my A minor 7. I go 5 to the flat 3rd to the 11th. And then there's a chromatic passing. It's a major 3rd. But it's not really a major 3rd. It's just chromaticism. We're moving through it down to C natural. So, and then he slides into the 11th, moves back through the major 3rd down to the 13, which is B on that D7. So very cool. Now, on the end of beat 4, he is addressing the next measure. So the next measure is E flat minor 7 to A flat 7. So on the end of beat 4, he gets the E flat early, 1/8 note early, and he goes right up the E flat minor 7 arpeggio. And he uses a triplet on the downbeat of bar 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, and triple it. And the whole phrase sounds like this. 1. Right, it's a cool phrase. 1. And what's going on there? He's outlining the E flat minor 7. Root, flat 3rd, 5th, flat 7th. Turning around into the 3rd of A flat 7. Even though A flat 7 technically hasn't happened yet, we can still kind of see he's anticipating it. So when I get to that C natural, if we look at it against the A flat 7, that's your 3rd. It moves to the 5th, to the flat 7th, to the 9th, to the root. So it outlines the chord perfectly. Now, if you're doing the analysis, the harmony technically doesn't change till beat 3. But when we look at it, there's no question he's outlining at A flat 7. So, you don't worry about, how you do the analysis. If it matches perfectly, I think on my PDF, I'm doing the analysis, exact against the harmony. So I'm still, this C in the E flat, I'm still attaching to the E flat minor 7. Don't get too caught up in theory, because it really isn't about that. It's about making music, right? So that phrase sounds like this. 1. Now, that is one continuous line from bar 22. So let's pick up from there. That's at the B flat minor 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then we're back into G minor at bar 25. And what does he do? He lays into the 11th. Right? There's your G minor 11 voicing. So if you know that voicing, you can just attach this line. Right? And that's the next phrase. All right, so the phrase at bar 25 sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, same kind of concept that he used earlier when I referenced the B flat major 7 arpeggio, kind of the same shape here. So we have the 11th into the 3rd, and then here's the upper structure of the B flat major 7, this D to F to A. So, and then he trills. So A, B flat, back to A, down to G, and then he plays the 6th, right, which is indicative of the Dorian sound, natural 6. It's also present in melodic minor, but it has a bit of a dark quality to it. Then he moves down to the 5th, to the flat 3rd, and slides into the 9th, to the root, and then down to the 5th. So root, 5th. And then on the end of the 3, he hits the 11th as like a syncopation. 1, 2, 3, right? And that takes us to the next 2/5, which is bar 28. We have C minor 7, taking us back to B flat major 7. And over that C minor to F7 2/5, he plays a very simple idea. It sounds like this. 1, 2. So very bluesy. 1, 2. So I've got the 11th on the C minor to the 9th on the F7 to the 11th on the F7, right? Now he slides into the flat 7 on B flat major 7, right? So you're not supposed to play a flat 7 on a major 7, right? Well, it happens all the time, particularly if you want a bluesy sound, right? So 1, 2, and then he continues with this kind of blues idea. Comes down to the root, and then he moves from the 11th into the flat 5 or sharp 11, right? Down. And then the final phrase sounds like this. 1, 2. Right. So in bar 30, 1 and 2. So I play B flat up to the D, hammer on pull off, back to the B flat, and then here's my C. It's the 11 on the G minor 7, so and he just moves back and forth like that. So I'm going to play it from bar 25. I'll play the last 8 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the first two choruses. There's value in just learning the transcription, probably even more value in doing the transcription yourself if you have that skill set, and if you don't, working towards it, because it's going to really help develop your ears. If you just play the transcription, you're going to get value from assimilating Wes's time feel. If you're playing along with him, you're going to get his nuanced articulation. So if you're paying attention to slides and pull-offs, the duration of notes, dynamics, all of these things are really important elements that help something sound like jazz. So a lot of guys will play something, it just doesn't sound right. I'm playing the right notes. Well, you may not have the right time feel, you may not have the right dynamics, and you may not have the right articulations. So all of those are really important aesthetically for the overall listener. So yes, learn the transcription, play it. But as far as developing vocabulary, it's really important to break down each phrase, understand how it works with the harmony. And if you like the phrase, transpose it. Put it in different keys, put it in different contexts. Once I started to do that, I found my ability to retain vocabulary really went up. And also, when you learn a single note line, make sure that you are putting it on the guitar neck somewhere that you see a chord voicing that represents the harmony at that point, so that your lines are always attached to a harmony, so you know how they're functioning. All right, thanks so much for joining me. I'm going to come back and I'm going to do one more part in this series, so we'll do part 3, and that's going to be on simplifying the approach to navigating these changes. The Wes solo is fantastic, but if you're a beginner, it might be a little challenging to play, all these notes at that tempo. So we're going to look at, a way to simplify it in part 3. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you found the information useful, and I'll see you next time.